Hello, I'm Jamar Laster, Content Director of Impressions, and welcome to the Impressions Podcast. Today, we'll be talking with Jeremy Picker, CEO and Creative Director of Amb3r Creative, about merch and branding, color, how decorators can work better with brands, and much more. Enjoy. Subscribe to Impressions Expo's YouTube channel, as well as the Impressions Podcast on Apple or Spotify, and check out industry-leading educational content at impressionsmagazine.com and our Impress You online platform. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Good, Jamar. How are you, man? How was your weekend?
It was great. Doing well.
Awesome.
Excited to have you here to talk merch and branding.
Yeah, man. It's always been in written form in your magazine. It's cool to have a face-to-face interview. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So yeah, these days it's all about merch. Merch is the word you hear. Merch. Can you talk to us about why merch has become such a ubiquitous thing that everybody seems to be focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been a powerful force for those that really understood the power of it. You know, I think the last few years it's gotten more mainstream, and since COVID, I think we're seeing it a lot more on a mass scale, on more of a mainstream scale. But I think bands have always done a great job of building that force through merch. That I came from the merch world, the band merch world, and that's always been a term that I've used for what we do in our industry. There was a post on LinkedIn and people were talking about what are we calling distributors on the promotional product side. I never really used that term until just recent, last couple of years, but merch has always been just kind of the coverall for what I've done in the past. And so I think it's just taking corporate America, whether they're cool or really stuffy, to really understand that there is that power of merchandise when done right, when integrated into their marketing strategy, not just making a shirt just because everyone else is, but actually how are we using this advertising medium to promote our band, to strengthen our brand, to raise money, whatever it might be. So I think as our society even becomes more casual, it's only going to gain steam. And with everything, you have your early adopters, and then eventually everyone else falls in line, which is great for our industry, right? I think there's still a long way to go, which means there's more opportunity for us to help bigger companies build that merchandise program and have it really be successful instead of just making t-shirts.
Good point. You mentioned music and bands. What markets do you think are growing most in terms of how popular they are for branded merchandise?
Yeah, I think the food and beverage industry, I mean, every other day you're seeing a collab come out, whether it's just a new collection or a drop that these big food brands are doing, or even recently I've seen these smaller streetwear brands actually be the designers and creative directors of a capsule from a food place. KFC has done a great job with that. Dunkin' Donuts has gotten a lot of press for their merchandise programs, but I think they're really starting to not take themselves too serious. Food and beverage, it's all about fun and a social environment. So I think merchandise is a great way to keep that going. They might like your food, they might like your product, but that fades away quickly, right? You eat it and it's done. But as they're building brand, they're building those fans through merchandise, which allows them to promote whoever company they relate to on an ongoing basis, not just hey, I tweeted I ate at Burger King or Taco Bell, but they're showcasing their lifestyle through that merchandise. So I think they're doing a a really good job. I've also seen the sports world start to step it up a little bit. You're seeing more lifestyle merchandise for professional sports teams. The jerseys that are, the authentic official jerseys, like those are still huge, especially in the football realm. But you're seeing people not just buying those, but buying something that they would wear throughout the week, not just on game day. So there's a couple brands I've seen in our industry. One is called the Wild Collective. They work with Gary Vaynerchuk's agency, and they're mainly focused on female fashion forward sports, licensed sports apparel. So they're doing denim jackets with patches and rhinestones and all kinds of very progressive looks. But again, it's for those people that want to support the team but just don't want to look like the actual team. They want to bring their style with their love of sports. And so they've done a great job. Fanatics, they're buying more and more. And now, since they bought Topps, the baseball card company, they're going into they're going to bring that into, I feel like, the NFT space and the digital arena, that they can put their sports memorabilia imprint on the metaverse. Whether you believe that is going to happen in the future or not, it's happening. People are doing it. They're spending millions of dollars investing in licensed sports memorabilia for the metaverse. So a digital asset, whether it's a physical baseball card or a digital one, people seem to see value in that. So those are the two, I think, industries. The fan on the sports side is growing, and then you go into the NIL deals, the college name, image, likeness, and that's going to just grow and grow. Because especially if you've been keeping up with March Madness, man, there's so many heroes coming out of it that no one would ever know about, but they're stepping up when it's time. And so you're going to see a lot of these students, these college kids, building their merch lines and owning the hype. I think St. Peter's is that team that is just upsetting everyone, and like none of the guys are ranked on the team. And so there's going to be heroes to come out, and they'll probably have their face on t-shirts. And it's really cool to see that progress, that they're just on the infancy in that stage. That whole world is just going to grow and grow. There's going to be, I think, merch companies that come out of it. I know Fanatics is doing stuff. I know other big brands are getting into it, but I think there's a lot of opportunity if done right. I keep saying that, if done right, because making the t-shirt is not enough. My brother, he lives in Idaho, so he's a Boise Bronco fan, and they just worked with a local printer that set up an e-store, and basically just putting their name on a t-shirt with the logo. There's nothing unique to the actual student. They're just capitalizing it. And I think that's going to be the start, because it's easy entry. There's no inventory. It's print on demand. There's a time and place for that. But as it starts getting more popular, getting a full designs for that student, and, whether, the dude has a mustache or scraggly hair, like capitalizing on those traits that people are going to associate with that athlete. So yeah, sports and food and beverage, I think, are doing a great job, capitalizing on merch right now.
Okay. That's a good point, especially with the NIL deals. I think those floodgates are open, and we're going to see a lot happening in that industry soon.
Sure.
Yeah,
man.
So if I'm trying to create a brand, right, what are 3 important things that I need to be thinking about?
Well, do you actually want to start a brand? Because it's a brutal thing. I think anyone can build a brand. It's really easy nowadays. But in my 13 years of at least merchandise with my current company, Amb3r, I've seen so many brands come and go. Ones that started off with, a hope and a dream, and then some that actually had great financial backing. and it's not enough. Anybody can create a brand, but how do you sustain it over time? So I think what will make you unique and fresh compared to everyone else out there? I know it's not just about the apparel, it's about the lifestyle and the community. So the people who are building the brand, they need to be out in front. People need to see them. It's not just another t-shirt. If you're really trying to set yourself apart, show people that, your designs, your color choices, your blanks, you're not, doing anything new. It's all just kind of regurgitated, and so I think really what is going to set you apart, what's your niche, what is your vibe? Because there's this company called Viper sunglasses, Pit Viper, I think. And if you watch them, they are completely unique and crazy, and their advertisements are just super, silly, off the cuff, playing off the old, almost like WWF, those big like shiny glasses that maybe Macho Man would wear. And they're
like Bret the Hitman Hart or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so they're building their whole brand off of this like 80s, 90s vibe. And so they've done this great job. They're not doing anything like super unique, but they're fresh and they've created their own little tribe. And so I think really thinking what is going to set myself apart, because if it's just another t-shirt, yeah, you might catch the wave, but are you going to be doing this long term? And so that would be one. I think, are you just trying to sell t-shirts? Or are you actually trying to create a brand? There's millions of people that are, if you go to Amazon, Teespring, a lot of these print on demand, it's basically just great marketers selling t-shirts as fads come and go. My mom, sorry, that wasn't a good example. I was trying to think of something like, this girl loves horses or something, and you see it and they have it for every animal, every state, it's all just like name drop stuff. They're capitalizing on trends, and they're going to sell a whole lot of t-shirts, but creating a brand, like, you don't know, most of these sites, there's no like humans associated with it. You don't know who the people are that you're purchasing from. They just like the shirt and they buy the shirt, but is it creating a raving fan like you would if you're building up a brand? So I think having that focus, because I don't think there's not a right or wrong answer. I'm a brand snob, so like I have my views of what makes a real clothing brand, but if someone wants to just sell t-shirts, more power to them. It's very easy to do in today's age. Again, you just have to be a good marketer. Look at Amazon, is full of them, of, even companies in China coming up with American statements, and they're riding that trend of selling t-shirts, not necessarily, oh, this is a cool brand. No, most people won't even know what brand it is. They just like the shirt, So I think really determining at the beginning what your route is going to be. And then I think the biggest part is, how are you going to sell them and distribute the clothes? Are you setting up just a print on demand store? You're outsourcing it through Printful and getting it out the door, that you can have done in a weekend, if you have some designs. But, that's the biggest thing I've seen of why clothing brands fail, is they don't have that strategy. They just think making a t-shirt, yeah, it's great, and your friends and your family says, oh, this is awesome, we're gonna, we'll wear it. But then you can't build a company off of your family and friends. You have to have the marketplace connect and relate to it. So that distribution part, I love bulk. I don't like print on demand necessarily. I'm still not super stoked on the quality versus just normal screen print. So you have to order more, right? Usually at the beginning when you're starting your brand. So I've seen people come in and just buy, let's say 8 to 10 designs, 72 shirts a pop, which isn't even a lot, but for them, it's a big investment. And then they don't reorder ever, or they might reorder in 9 months. And a lot of that is they they just have an idea for t-shirts and merch, not how to sell them and distribute them. Are you doing ads? Are you utilizing Shopify or whatever platform you're doing to create engagement and follow through from social media to paid ads? And so that's I think the biggest thing of before you go into starting making the merch, because that's the easy part, I think, in the whole supply chain, is how are you going to have this strategy to build it to where it's profitable, and you're moving some volume. So it could be just starting print on demand until you get an audience and build your following on social. And then you go to bulk, which is going to give you higher margins, even though if you have inventory, I mean, I'm always pushing people like you want to get that inventory eventually, because just your margins are going to be so different. And then are you planning on just going direct to consumer on your website, or are you trying to get into local, retailers doing wholesale, or, big box chains? Like having those focus and thinking about it at the beginning could really get some of these brands started on the right foot, versus we have this great idea, we're going to make merch out of it, and there's only going to be a few that rise, that are going long term, versus how many people are actually starting clothing brands.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you have to have a holistic view of it, and like you said, it's not just about making some cool T-shirts or making some cool, shirts and pants and socks, and
Yep.
then maybe a handful of promotional goods. Like you have to have a more holistic approach. So that's
True.
a good point. In our world, in the decorator world, I know of and see decorators who work with brands, especially at startup, and it's, hey, like we were talking about, hey, let's come and print some shirts. I can print some shirts for you. We can get your brand off the ground, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm a decorator and I'm trying to work with brands, in your opinion, is it possible to even do that effectively if you've never tried to start a brand, or if you've never worked with a brand?
Yeah, I think there's two kind of different sides to that. If you've never worked with a brand, not that you can't effectively, but you just you need to know what you're getting into. All the decorators out there, they probably get hit up 10 times more than I do of just people with an idea coming off the street, no thought, they just want to get shirts made. And those type of clients, again, you have to do some risk, into it. You have to believe in people. Some of those people are going to grow and they're going to be a great client, but knowing the majority of them, they probably won't be coming back, or if they're coming back, they're not tapping into their potential, because again, they're just making shirts, which is the easy part. So if you've never worked with brands, I would ask fellow decorators in the industry on those tips, of what would be a good way to approach it. If you've already been working with brands, that they need a little more hand holding. They don't have the technical acumen of screen printing. They don't necessarily understand all the costs and extras. And so I think you can do it effectively, but when your role is to make a great product, then that's the easy part. I mean, you should be good at that if you are a decorator, right? Like making a quality product. But I think it depends on how deep you want to go with that customer and how much you want to help them. There's a lot of resources out there that can help people, but I think you need to know who you are as a decorator. And while your niche can change over time, and it probably evolves as trends change, what is your focus? A lot of companies, they want to go in and, they want to print that left chest logo, one color. It keeps the presses running. It's a moneymaker. But, if you're just doing that and not being I say politely opinionated to the brand on their approach to it, just slapping a logo, no one knows who they are when they're first starting off, let alone when they're a little bigger. Like very few logos are are going to be that memorable. So just slapping their logo on, a bunch of different color shirts, again, they're probably not coming back, because that's not the best approach. So I think if you just want to stay in your lane and help the brands just produce it, and without any involvement in the concept to selecting the product, then that's easy. But if you want to get deeper, you're going to have to know things that are going to help them, or give them resources that are going to educate them, so you don't have to, because they're going to require a lot of hand holding for a while. I still work with brands that have been printing shirts for 10 years and they still don't even know what they're doing. They're doing a great job at selling shirts. So again, it doesn't even have to be the best design. But you definitely, it definitely requires more involvement with brands and maybe corporations.
Okay. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some different, tools or methods that decorators can use to help people who want to develop, brands or some branded products?
Yeah, so there's a couple guys I follow that I'm kind of becoming industry friends with. They're not necessarily, one of them is in our industry in a way. He has a decoration shop, but he started this online kind of masterclass. So there's a guy named Devin Lars. He's from Curio Printing out of, I think, Oakland. He works with Golden State, Starbucks, a bunch of big brands. And he works with a lot of streetwear brands. He prints for them, but then again, he's educating them. He's if you sign up for his course, you can eliminate a lot of the know-how to, that you're going to have to learn the hard way. And so he's giving you, sources on blanks, where to get great merchandise, accessory items outside of t-shirts, everything from website to payment portals. I would recommend investing that $297 or whatever he charges for that class. John Phenom is another guy that I've become friends with just through social media. He was actually invited to speak at, I think, the Ink Kitchen in ISS Long Beach.
That's right.
And that's the first time I've seen him within our industry. He's usually on that front side. He's been the creative director for, a lot of brands that are in big box retailers. And now he's like this educator. I think I'm trying to remember the name of his course, but he has all these things that you can download, from mock-ups to line sheets to tech packs and all in between. So they're both kind of hitting that same market of educating brands on how to start off right and how to be sustainable over time. So like those guys, while I study and I know that space, I'm still more focused on the beat of actually creating a good product. Those guys, they are my go-to for education on really what it takes to be a brand. Because the more you can help that client, give them the resources, the less you're going to have to spend trying to teach them everything. You're still going to have to teach them and hold their hand a lot of times, but the biggest part, you want to see them succeed, right? If you're taking a chance and spending time with them, you want them to come back in 3 years and keep those reorders flowing. You put a lot into it up front to help brands get off the ground. So you're barely making money on those first initial orders, because you're spending so much time on it. As they sell through, as they bring in reorders, that's where you're really making your money. So if you're not giving your brand clients helpful tools or sending them in the right direction, most likely they're not going to be that. And you're just kind of working with these like initial brands and then nothing. And it just takes a lot of time and a lot of man and woman power to service those type of clients. So those are some good tools. There's a book that was written 2009 called Threads Not Dead. The guys over at Go Media, which were really instrumental in online merchandise as it was growing in the early 2000s, kind of 2010, and they put a book together of all these different designers, different brands, different decorators. I got to be a contributor to it. I kind of broke down all the different specialty inks and, embroidery and applique, and just kind of a definition of terms for the book. And while the industry's changed a lot, technology's changed a lot, there's so many truths that are universal, timeless, that if you educate yourself, you're going to be in a much better position. So, even if a decorator bought if it's for sale still, I think, if not, hit me up and I'll send you a copy. But being able to distribute that to your clients, hey, just take a look, read this. There's some great sections on everything from designing it to picking out Pantones, just to get them to buy a Pantone book would save so many printers a lot of headaches. But then again, distribution and knowing the options out there, jumbo printing, oversized, sublimation, like getting them educated and helping them create just more than just a printed t-shirt. How can they go beyond that and have these specialty pieces? Because again, it's easy to make a shirt, but how is it going to differentiate from everyone else? So those are some initial tools that I really like for a brand to educate themselves. And there's a bunch of free options on YouTube. T-shirt Side Hustle is a guy I follow.
Stan
he
Banks.
does a lot. Say what?
Stan Banks.
Yeah, man. I know he does a lot of heat transfers and press, and then T-shirt help desk. He's doing a great job of educating. And so there's so many free resources out there. I think for brands, just letting them know, don't get in the trap of just making a shirt. Like, it's easy. And again, your friends are going to like it, but how do you actually create a business out of it? If you just want it as a side hustle, cool. Again, going into it, knowing that, and knowing who to follow and what brands, to kind of liken yourself after, not to be exactly the same, but just the type of client they have in the industry they're in. That's kind of what I want. So really diving into that at the beginning and helping, again, just giving them, having a set of links to all these different things I was saying, and just email it. Have your customer service email a new brand when they say, hey, I want to start a clothing line, we're not sure what we want. That's the worst when we hear that, but just having that and letting them educate on themselves, which is going to make our jobs a lot easier when they're ready to go. And hopefully it's all, print ready and Pantone's called out. Most likely it won't be, but for those that you can give those resources, it's going to be helpful. Because again, you're not just giving them a product, you're actually helping them become better, and you want to see them succeed. And just giving them that information is going to be super helpful, especially for startups.
Right. Before we move on, I'm going to take a moment to remind everyone about our award-winning decorated apparel industry events, the Impressions Expos. They're back, and they're featuring networking and sourcing opportunities, as well as the best education around. But I want to let everyone know that you can still get a 24/7, 365 learning experience from the comfort of your own home or shop by accessing our Impress You online platform. It features educational videos brought to you by some of the best and brightest minds in the industry, and it's all online at impressionsmagazine.com. So I want everybody to remember to check that out today. Tune in next time for part 2 of our conversation with Jeremy, where we talk even more about branding and the importance of color. You don't want to miss it, so subscribe to Impressions Expo's YouTube channel, as well as the Impressions podcast on Apple or Spotify. And check out industry-leading educational content at impressionsmagazine.com and our Impress You online platform.